Right now we have one of our speakers for the day, so it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. Many in the room will know her simply as B, but Manitobans now have to share her with the rest of the country as her role as President of the Canadian Labour Congress. B. Brusque was recently elected President of the Canadian Labour Congress at the 29th Constitutional Convention in 2021. She's only the second woman ever to hold the position. For more than 3 decades, B has served workers and their families as an activist, a workers' advocate, a negotiator, a community organizer, and as a labour leader. Her experience has served her well as President of the CLC in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Before her election as President, B served as Vice President of UFCW Canada National Council, which sets the strategic direction of the National Union and its more than 250,000 members across this country. She had previously served as Secretary-Treasurer for UFCW Pt2, where she was responsible for the largest private sector union locally in Manitoba. And a note, I was a member of UCW when I was 18 to about 25. So. B's passion for the rights of working people was ignited in 1987 when she and her UFCW local 832 co-workers held the line for 125 days to achieve a fair contract at the West Fair grocery chain in Manitoba. Over the next 7 years, B took on a role as shop steward, Health and Safety Committee member, and was elected by her fellow members as a Vice President of the local's Executive Board. She's graduated of the University of Manitoba Labour Studies program, so let's give a big round of applause for B.
And Stephanie told me yesterday that there's a box to stand on, so I really appreciate that being a little bit short. Thank you so much. Hello, MGEU friends. I am absolutely thrilled to be here speaking with you today. How awesome is it to be in person after 2.5 years? Come on, really, right? And I want to thank your new president, Kyle Ross, for inviting me, and to all of you for allowing me to be part of your important convention. I'm really thrilled to be with you in person, not just to be in Winnipeg, but to address Manitoba Labour family. So thank you for that opportunity. I have many, many fond memories of working in collaboration with so many of the fine MGEU staff and activists. Many of you in this room. It's been wonderful to see a lot of you over the last yesterday and today. A harder working and more dedicated and more active Manitoba union, quite frankly, is tough to find. Manitoba has a very strong legacy of labour activism, and all of you continue to exemplify the strength and grit of the Manitoba workers and the labour movement in Manitoba. We know that the last couple of years have been really tough, and you have continuously stepped up to fight for the workers in this province. You have fought back against privatization efforts and job cuts by the current Conservative government, like the ongoing threat of privatization of liquor sales to private retailers, or the closure of many of Manitoba's institutions, like the recently announced Agassiz Youth Centre closure, the Dauphin Correctional Centre, and the Manitoba Developmental Centre in Port aux Prairies. Shame on this government. You continue to push back by championing strong public services which serve our communities and provide high-quality jobs for Manitobans. And you do that by educating Manitobans on the important issues and the important impacts that these government cuts have to our communities. Your efforts are tireless, and Manitobans are lucky to have you. And thanks to you, your hardworking 11,000 public service workers recently won wage increases and retroactive pay after this government tried to impose wage freezes. Congratulations. This hard-fought victory, congratulations, and again, you came through for your members. You always do. What I really appreciate about the MGEU is that in my time at UFCW, I know that the MGEU was always available to work with other unions to advance progressive priorities that benefit all of us. In fact, you were usually amongst the first unions to pick up the phone to partner with others because you recognize and value the importance of solidarity, and I appreciate that. We have that in common. The basis for absolutely everything that we as workers do is solidarity. It's what helps keep us moving forward together. It is the power in our House of Labour. And MGEU is also always growing our movement through organizing and member engagement. You've never shied away from a fight with the regressive government in this province, And we know that Brian Pallister may be gone, but Heather Stephenson is no different. She is another classic Conservative. She seems to know how unpopular her government is, and instead of taking the opportunity to understand the issues and to make decisions that benefit workers of this province, she's simply trying to hang on by her fingernails without rocking the boat too much. She's hoping that by being less controversial than her predecessor, voters will forget about her party's legacy here in Manitoba. I've got news for her. We won't forget. And I don't know if you folks have been following the news lately. I'm sure you have. Like, how much more problematic can you be than to anger the Pride event organizers by choosing to just be there for the photo op but not actually following through and doing what should be done, which is marching in solidarity? That's shameful, quite frankly. Our provincial election countdown has started, and your organizing and engagement work is exactly what this province needs right now. We have to continue to engage with workers, both unionized and non-unionized. We have to talk to our families, our friends, our co-workers about the importance of electing strong candidates that represent the interests of workers in this province. In fact, I don't have to tell you folks this, but to simplify it, many of your members literally have the opportunity to elect the very folks who will be sitting across from them at the bargaining table, whether at the bargaining table in person or by the very government mandates that our elected officials set for employee groups that are governed by provincial legislation. This is a reality, and it's an opportunity that we cannot afford to miss to talk to union members about. When the time comes, we all need to be out, knocking on doors, making those phone calls in support of worker-friendly candidates. And friends, I want you to know that the CLC is going to be there right along with you, every step of the way, because victory is in our grasp. And together we will win a worker-focused government, and we have the opportunity to make history to elect the very first Indigenous Premier in any province across Canada. This truly is our moment to seize. It's our time to use our influence to make substantial and lasting change happen. We know over the last couple of years that the pandemic has renewed workers' resolve, pushing us to demand better. Recently, the federal Liberal government and the federal NDP announced a landmark agreement that will see some of the advancement of a number of key priorities for working people. We have been pushing for parties to work together and to get things done for workers, and when you look at this agreement, you can see some very important victories. Progress on childcare, expanding public health care to include dental care, starting with low-income children this year. Just transition legislation, anti-scab legislation with the labour movement at the table. Affordable housing. We know what a strain housing insecurity and the rising cost of living is having on people's health. Canada's unions have been pushing our influence to build relationships with this government and with parties while building the broad base of support that we need on these issues. And friends, parties working for the common good is exactly how our democracy is supposed to work, and it's what Canadians need in these turbulent times. What we do not need is the dangerous, deceptive, and divisive rhetoric coming from some of the far-right politicians sitting in our House of Commons and their far-right-wing friends. They are arguing for less help from government and to just let the markets decide. Well, I ask you, when has the marketplace ever provided free dental care? When has it ever provided affordable housing or investments in public health care? The reality is only when parties and governments work together with working people do we get concrete solutions to real problems, like public pension plans, Medicare, or workplace protections. Workers are standing up to employers and to governments demanding better pay, improved working conditions, and benefits like paid sick time, which will now happen quicker thanks to this agreement. And using our collective power and standing in solidarity is what got us this far, and it's what's going to help us continue to push our advance our priorities at the very highest levels. Now is the time for us to push even harder to organize more workers in more sectors and in more workplaces. And friends, now is also the time to turn non-active union members into active activists. And that means finding a way to engage those union members and embolden our labour movement. It's time to grow our movement so that our voice can get louder. That helps us to actually push a worker-centered agenda benefiting all workers and their families from coast to coast to coast, because we know in labour that when our movement organizes, we win improvements for everyone. Following the last global pandemic, through the Great Depression, through World War II, workers organized into unions and we built a better future. In the resulting decades, Canada's middle class was created. Through collective organizing, workers rebuilt a fairer economy and a pathway to prosperity for millions of families. With the challenges facing workers in the current pandemic, the solution to a better future remains absolutely the same as it was 100 years ago. Workers must organize. Through collective organizing into unions, we can and will build a better future. A future without precarity in the workplace, a future with paid sick time, higher wages, and fairer benefits. When we organize collectively, we can ensure life is fairer for everyone. We can bring down the cost families face with pharmacare, affordable housing, and dental coverage. And we can ensure that care is there and accessible for our loved ones and ourselves when and where we need it. We can tackle the climate crisis head-on while creating good, sustainable jobs in our communities right across Canada. Over the last few years, we've been hard at work at the CLC building one of the labour movement's largest mobilization campaigns in history. We have engaged with members in every part of the country and signed up hundreds of thousands of volunteers, and we are just getting started. When I launched my campaign to become president of the CLC, I never could have predicted where the next 2 years would take us. None of us could have seen what was coming, and as Larry noted at the dinner yesterday, we've been living through a historical and unprecedented time. The most vulnerable among us, especially those already marginalized by existing inequality, have had to struggle the most over the last 2 years. And I'm proud, noting that we are leading a team at the CLC that is focused on building equality, fairness, and social justice. And I'm encouraged by what lies ahead, because we do have an opportunity to make critical progress. We know that workers, all of you, got us through the worst of the pandemic. By building solidarity and engaging union members, we can continue to make progress, and that means engaging our existing members. I want to tell you a little bit about our recent national campaign as I end my speech. Earlier this year, we launched a campaign to focus on care workers and the care economy. I know when we think care economy, we immediately think of doctors and nurses, and yes, they're part of our care economy, but I'm talking about those folks who get less attention. I'm talking about the lab and x-ray technicians, the therapists and diagnostic workers, the paramedics and personal support workers. I'm talking about the MGEU members working social services and in healthcare. And also, I'm talking about the non-healthcare settings like schools, where people work as educational assistants and early childhood educators. We celebrate those care workers in times of crises, and we commend them for their strength and bravery. But we know that care workers are people too, and they are heroes, but they aren't superhuman. We know they are burning out at alarming rates, and they're facing increasing incidents of violence and harassment within their workplace, and threats of privatization, as I don't need to tell you folks. And when the time comes to negotiate their collective agreements, care workers are so often met with concessions and cuts, and demands for workplace improvements are all but ignored. Our care campaign is aimed not only at celebrating care workers, but also at demanding investments in public care systems and fighting back against privatization, because we know that at some point, we or someone we love will need the help of a care worker. And you may have friends or relatives who work in those care jobs, or you may be a care-related worker yourself. We know care workers are there for us during some of our most difficult and vulnerable times, and we need to be there for them. And that's why we intend to fight really hard for change. But we need your help. We want to hear from the care workers in your life. I invite you to visit canadianlabour.ca. It's canadianlabour.ca to learn more about how you can easily get involved, because it's time for us to deal with this issue head on. So my friends, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you. Thank you for all of the amazing work that you do for workers in Manitoba and for our communities. And solidarity, my friends, and let's keep kicking ass for the working class.
Thank you, B. I'm really looking forward to working with you in your new role at the Labour Council, and thanks for those great words. And right, we are empowered. We have to take charge in this going forward, and those words really ring true, and that's how we can make change here. So we're focused on that in the next 18 months. It's going to be important. I'd like to call up the General Resolutions Committee, please. And Scott will be taking over the chair for a bit. Just give me.
I feel like a giant. Here. Just lowered over it. And now you're stuck with me the rest of the way. I will now call on the committee to present GR8, which is at page 70 of your books.
GR8, Ensure VIMA Equipment Training and Tool Standards. The MGEU will lobby the Government of Manitoba to ensure civil servants working in VIMA who are responsible for the repair of equipment that kept Manitoba safe are kept up to date with current training and tool standards in order to keep up with ever-changing industry. Because employees cannot repair the equipment to do so as the safety of Manitoba is at risk. Submitted by local Red River College.
It has been moved and seconded by committee. Would you like to provide your recommendation and the reasons for it?
The committee's recommendation is to accept. The MGEU has undertaken a campaign about improving public service called Keep Us Together, which in part focuses on the road maintenance jobs our members provide to Manitobans. MGEU has been aggressive in pushing back against the privatizing and contracting out of services provided by the Manitoba Infrastructure and VIMA in several media stories we have generated. MGEU undertook a third-party study examining the potential costs of not investing in this vital public service. The report found increased costs and inferior service in a privatized model.
As this is a general resolution, this requires 50% plus one to pass. I do not see anyone at the mics. Do we have any virtual speakers? Seeing none, I will get the ballot put up. Oh, sorry, Joe. I recognize the delegate on Pro 1 who will make sure to introduce himself appropriately this time.
Barney Rebel. Joe Dooley, Trades Area 54 Chief Steward and also Component Director. My fellow mechanics at VIMA, well, I'm not a mechanic, but they work for me fixing my junk. No. No. But anyways, it is expensive for all the tools they need, all the training they need, and the government's not kicking in. The idea that people out of Red River Community College raising this, I think it's something that should be passed, accepted, and pushed onto the government for more pay for their tools and their training. Because the guys at VIMA don't have all the proper equipment to do everything, and the government won't provide it. So accept it, right, everybody? Otherwise, Barney will come back.
Thank you, Delegate. Taking an extra careful look this time and seeing nobody at the mics, and we still have no one online, I will call for the ballot to be open on GR8. Oh, you guys keep sneaking up on me. All right, I recognize the delegate on Pro 4.
Sorry, late to the party. Thomas Bergen, Local 395, first-time convention, first-time speaker. This, similarly actually to the last resolution with the privatization, kind of hits home for me, which sounds ironic working for CFS. My wife actually works for Parks, and on a daily basis I hear her come home saying how short they are, how funding keeps getting cut. The park, they get complaints every day how grass isn't getting cut. Realistically, it's because there's no money. It kind of comes back, and it really hit home when one of our members said that basically the government's plan is to just starve everyone out to force privatization. And it was actually really heartbreaking too, and I've even heard my wife say sometimes where, you know what, maybe even privatization at this point would be best because at least we'll get some money. So to hear that the union is fighting and pushing and kind of trying to get away from that is awesome. But really, it's we like the other gentleman had just said, really it comes down to we need the money to fix the things, we need the money for training, and yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Delegate. I'm just going to stand here for a minute. Nobody else? I'm just looking around one more time. So we will open the ballot on GR8. Again, this is a 50% plus one vote. The ballot is now open. $15 seconds. Ballot is closed. And that carries. And 169 to accept and 1 to reject. So the reject lost a guy this time. I guess that does look bad, but no, it wasn't me. I will call the committee to read GR9.
GR9 email. The MGU will look at limiting the amount of mail being sent to members and opt for email wherever possible. Because there is too much mail and email is preferred. People can opt out of paper mail if they choose. Better for the environment. Submitted by the local Manitoba Arts Council. We recommend acceptance.
I will call on the committee chair to provide their rationale.
Committee's recommendation is to accept. MGU has taken steps to significantly reduce the amount of paper mail that we send out to members, opting instead to focus on communicating via email, social media, through the MGU website, via telephone town hall or phone banks, or through webinars. The MGU uses these and other electronic options to communicate with members and reduce the amount of paper used.
It has been moved and seconded by, that was rough. It was moved and seconded by committee. Is there any debate? Seeing nobody at the mics and nothing online, I will call for the ballot to be opened on GR9. The ballot is now open. $15 seconds remain. The ballot is now closed. That carries with 164 to accept and 6 to reject. Prior to going into GR10, I'm going to ask the folks at the back of the room to lower the lights a little bit, both because it's very hard to see and because I do not want to blind anybody in the front row from the shine off my head. Thank you, that's perfect. Call on the committee to read GR10.
GR10, keep social housing public. The MGEU will lobby the Government of Manitoba to cease converting to a private model of social housing because it can be demonstrated that what the public sector provides is not the equivalent to what the what the private sector provides is not equivalent to what the public sector provides, which is placing Manitoba's safety at risk. Submitted by Local Physical Sciences Area 7. Committee recommends to accept.
It has been moved and seconded by committee. The recommendation is one of acceptance. I guess at this point, not that we need it, but I will just do another reminder. You're voting on the actual resolution, not the committee's recommendation. I don't see any notes, but do you have anything you'd like to add? No. Are there any speakers? We have none online. Seeing none, I will call for the poll to be open on GR10. GR10 is open. Please vote now. $15 seconds remaining. The ballot is now closed. And that carries with 174 to accept and 3 to reject. Committee, I will call on you to read GR11.
GR11, wildfire services included in Cancer Bill. The MGEU will lobby the wildfire services to be included in the Cancer Bill for firefighters because in the day-to-day aspect of fighting fires, we are more exposed to carcinogenic or particulates, submitted by the Local Physical Sciences Area 7.
It has been moved and seconded by committee. I now call on the committee chairperson to provide their notes.
The committee's recommendation is to accept. The Workers' Compensation Act was amended in 2002, where the first list of presumptive cancers for firefighters were added to the Act. The list of occupational diseases and coverage for part-time firefighters and Office of the Fire Commission personnel was expanded in 2005, 2009, 2011, and 2021. Forest firefighters were reportedly excluded from the original legislation due to lack of scientific research relating to their occupation.
Seeing no one at a con mic, I will recognize the speaker on Pro 4.
Hello, I'm Michelle Mansell. I am she, her. I am with Area 4, Local 410. I've been to convention before, but first time speaking at convention. As someone who volunteers with my local fire department, I strongly stand pro and support of this, this action. I have had family members and personal things to do with the presumptive cancer legislation, and the WCB support is tremendous for that. It's usually when you have a WCB claim, you fight and you fight and you fight, but with presumptive cancer legislation and WCB, when you're going through a really tough time, it's nice not to have to fight for everything. And then just as a background, if I've been on many wildfires, many field fires, and there's no way you can't say that you're not exposed to a great deal of smoke and carcinogens. There's always, you know, a tire in the middle of a field. There's always something that's not just wood that's burning. So yeah, I'm strongly in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Seeing no further speakers at the mics and none online, I will call for the poll to be open on GR 11. Oh, we have somebody online. One moment, please. Whenever the technical issues are ready, I call on the delegate online.
Brent Early, Area 7, Local 40. I wanted to speak to this in support of this resolution. The information is out there. There has been studies, one back I think around 2013 by the United States Department of Agriculture that has identified many hazardous substances and particulate that do exist in wildfires. And most recently, McGill University just last month on the 10th of May released a study which it followed 2 million Canadians over a period of 20 years. And it has identified a higher incidence of brain and lung cancers. Now, it didn't speak specifically to firefighters, but obviously to individuals who live in the communities that are prone to wildfires and to frequent wildfires. But by that extrapolation, you take the firefighters who are fighting wildfires, and this is their career, and they fight these fires not only in our province, but when called, they get on a plane and they go to other provinces and other countries to fight wildfires. They are exposed. There is no arguing this, and they deserve the protections under this legislation. So please support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. I will recognize the speaker on Pro Mic 1.
Hi, I'm Crystal Huckluck. I'm a first-time speaker. Thank you. I'm with Physical Sciences Area 1, Local 35. And I just wanted to say that I previously, I'm now an environment officer, but previously I was a conservation officer. And part of our role was working on I worked the fire line and I managed crews and at various different levels. And I want to say that I fought fires in waste disposal grounds and also fires along rail lines where there's rail ties that were burning, and that creosote. Now that I've switched over, I'm now an environment officer, and now I know a lot more about those hazards, and things like the creosote on those rail ties are carcinogens, and they're known to cause cancer. So you're not just in the bush, with nice, even that can cause cancer. But at times you're in and amongst things that are very well known as carcinogens in fighting fires. So I'd like to support this.
Thank you, Delegate. Seeing no more speakers and no more online, I will call for the poll to be open on GR 11, please. The poll is open. Fifteen seconds remaining. That ballot is now closed. That carries. 170 to accept and 3 to reject. I will call on the committee to read GR 12.
Email minutes. The MGU will email local minutes to all members of the local who have provided an email address once they have been approved. Because members who were not able to attend the meeting should be informed of what occurred at that meeting. Submitted by local-led Tournesol de Saint-Vital. Committee recommends rejection.
I now call on the committee chair to provide their rationale.
As has been stated, the committee's recommendation is to reject. Currently, any member may receive minutes from a previous meeting by contacting the MGU Resource Centre to request them. MGU strives to strike a careful balance to provide members with email updates on important information while avoiding sending too many email messages, which can cause members to unsubscribe from union updates. It is also MGU's experience that when we send too much information, people stop reading all of it.
It has been moved and seconded by committee. Seeing no speakers at the mic and having none online, I will call for the ballot to be open on GR 12. Ballot is open. "15 seconds remaining. The ballot is now closed. That is defeated. 60 to accept, 112 to reject. I will now call on the committee to read GR 13.
GR 13, amend policy manual to exempt a committee from meeting outside Winnipeg. The MGU will amend the MGU policy and procedure manual requiring all standing committees to hold at least one meeting per term outside the city of Winnipeg. Because the Grievance and Appeals Committee includes the requirement to meet and discuss cases with legal counsel based out of Winnipeg as well as appellants. Because the MGU is fiscally responsible to the entire union membership. Because having legal counsel attend meetings in different areas is inefficient and very costly. Submitted by the Grievance and Appeals Standing Committee, and the recommendation is of acceptance.
It has been moved and seconded by committee. Would the committee chair like to provide any additional rationale? They would not. Recognize the brother on Pro 1.
James Alexander, Local 14 Corrections. I'm actually just making a point of information. I'd like to know what the specific change in the language is going to be. Is it a removal of that requirement, or is it a shifting to an option for that committee, or is it just standard committees will not be able to do that going forward?
Do you want to answer that? You can answer.
It would be an option.
Okay, thank you.
Go, James.
I do not. Yeah. Recognizing the delegate on Con 3.
Hi, my name is Paulette Sherb. I'm from Local 409 in Brandon, Tech Prof. My pronouns are she, her. And if I'm understanding this resolution, we're saying that the committee should not have to go outside of Winnipeg for their meetings, that it would then be an option. And I think we've been talking about member engagement and having people become more involved with the union throughout, and when everything's in Winnipeg, that's a detriment. So I'm thinking that having the committees meet in other areas of the province is one way that we can at least make ourselves visible to people outside of Winnipeg. There is lots of land out there, not just here. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Although Pro Mike 4 got there first, he gets a lot of mic time, so I'm going to go to Pro Mike 1.
Thank you. Darcel Legac, Area 7. Area 7, Local 26. He, him. I'm on the Grievance and Appeals Committee. Our committee is a little bit different for the simple reason that we deal with the appeals for the grievances. Members come from wherever they come from. We can't pre-schedule meetings out of town without knowing who's going to be appealing at that point. And our legal counsel is critical to be there when we have these meetings. We don't want to take them away from their everyday tasks to go out of town to attend these meetings. And it's really difficult based on a situation to schedule a meeting out of town when you don't know where the grievers might be coming from. This is the practice that's been happening with the committee for some time, just to be fiscally responsible to the membership and to ensure that the representation is fair. So really, it has never been an issue before. We simply want to clean up the wording to allow that option to make it so that we weren't in violation of anything. I guess that's it.
Thank you, Delegate. We have an online con speaker, Mala Tilak. When you're ready, go ahead. You can go. Oh, unmute and go.
There we are. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mala Tilak. I'm local 47 from Social Sciences. I'm Area 7. I'm she, her, and this is my first time speaking. Thank you. I missed some of what was said in the main session while I was joining all the online breakout rooms and such. But I think what I'd like to do is propose an amendment to the wording, just to make it clear what's, I think, the intent is. So maybe the wording could be something like the MGEU will delete the requirement in the MGEU Policy and Procedure Manual requiring all standing committees to hold at least one meeting per term outside the city of Winnipeg.
I'm unfortunately going to say that that would drastically change what I believe to be the intent of this, which is just to allow one or this one particular committee to not be forced to do it. So I'm going to call that amendment unfortunately out of order, although we do accept the spirit that it was given in. So we will remain on the motion. And I guess we're on pro, so I'll go to pro mic 4.
I'll challenge the chair. I'm just joking. Kyle Ross, MGU president, and you may not believe this, but this is my first time at a mic on the floor of an MGU convention. So I rise in favor of this to give the option, but we were looking at this and we discussed this internally. And we're also looking to find a calendar of all the community events going on around our province so our MGU committees can get out and do something in the communities, because the intent of this when it was put in was for our committees to go to a community and be seen in the community and do some positive work and be involved, right? So we're working to get that to the committees so we can have a positive impact when we're sending our members around this province to hold a meeting outside of Winnipeg and to show the rest of the province that we are here for our members, and I think it's really important that we do that. Thank you, so I rise in favor of this.
Thank you, Delegate. Recognizing the delegate on Con 3.
Hi, Darlene Adamson. I just wanted to maybe make a suggestion to, since it's only impacting one of the committees, to just include just that committee instead of all standing committees. Just put grievance and appeals in there maybe, instead of all standing committees. Because they're the ones that seem to have the issue.
What is the particular wording you would propose for an amendment?
Okay, MGU will amend the MGU Policy and Procedure Manual requiring the Grievance and Appeals Committee to hold at least one meeting per term outside the city. So it's just impacting the one committee rather than all committees. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just thinking, maybe if you could go up with, see Aaron
Sure.
there for help with.
Okay.
Once we have the exact wording, then I'll rule on it. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. I'm gonna rule this one out of order. They want it back. Yeah.
Should have challenged the chair.
Can't rule it out of order until they make it, unfortunately. So just so everybody knows what the pause is the people are proposing the wording for an amendment. I'm going to go to the committee to clarify what they believe the intent of the resolution is. Then I will make a ruling, and then we will continue debate. But I will give them about 2 more minutes to figure out the wording so that we can get back on track here. There's a lot of cooks in that kitchen.
Now you're getting the challenge.
That's fine. Is this a point? Okay. I recognize the delegate on Con 3 for a point.
As a point of order,
Yes.
while they're getting the wording correct, can we do the next 2 resolutions and then come back to this one after they have the wording correct?
What time we have? 10 minutes? I don't think we're gonna, I'm going to not agree with your point of order because I think we're almost there to where we can get this moving. We do appreciate it though. I appreciate everybody's patience. So it seems like we're getting relatively close on the wording, so while we're doing that, what I will do is I will call on the committee to provide further clarification of their understanding of the intent of this resolution. Then I can do it.
So delegates, just to clarify this situation, our policy manual currently says that each standing committee must hold one of their meetings outside of the city of Winnipeg. Unfortunately, there are committees that don't have the ability to do so, whether it's because they're having to bring in legal counsel who work in the downtown area, and the expense to have them travel out, outside the city is too cumbersome, too cost prohibitive, whatever it might be. There are other standing committees that have never stepped outside of the city of Winnipeg for their own purposes, and they are technically in violation of this expectation. So the intent of this, although submitted by standing and grievance, the intent was to allow every standing committee to have the option to choose whether they wish or choose not to have a meeting outside. If they do so, that's their prerogative and they are supported. If they choose not to, they are also supportive. But it's the committee itself that will make that determination, rather than being mandated to do so and not having the ability to do so. Secondly, it's one thing that we also need to take into account is that mandating our members to travel during inclement weather, putting them at risk of harm, icy roads, whatever it might be, those things are things that those committees are taking stock of. And so it's, again, leaving the decision to the committee itself rather than forcing them to do something that could cause them harm.
With that new clarification, and with the apologies to the delegate online, who I incorrectly ruled out of order, I will rule this amendment out of order because now that we are aware of the intent, it does include all committees having that option. So we will again return to debating the original motion. But I do apologize to the delegate online who was incorrectly ruled out of order, and I apologize to the people who worked on the wording, but it is clear now from the committee's further information that the original intent of this is to give all committees the option of not having to travel. So we will return to the original motion. And I will recognize I was out of con prior, so the delegate at Pro 1.
Hello, Kirk Carr, Local 403. Just to make an amendment to say that each standing committee shall be budgeted for at least one meeting outside of Winnipeg per term and will be encouraged to have that meeting outside of Winnipeg. Because right now it just says you will have that meeting outside. So this says that it will be budgeted for and it will be encouraged.
So technically that would not change the intent and that would not be out of order, but I'm going to say that I believe that is already what we're asking for here, and there's not specific worded here. So if you provided us with that wording, and if this were to pass, I think that would be sufficient, but to beg the indulgence of the room and the fact that we've already had two amendments, perhaps we could have it remain as it is. So it is your choice, you can move it. And if you have a seconder, we can debate it. Or you can just believe me that I agree that that would be good wording for what we would use if this would pass.
I just, as long as it's like that's still going to be budgeted for, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
So you're withdrawing your...
I'll withdraw with that intent.
Thank you. Speaker at Con Mic 3.
Annan Reynolds, Local 42. I'm on the Grievance and Appeals Committee, and I agree with an exception for Grievance and Appeals Committee. I don't agree with an option for all committees. That was brought in at a convention to have us, all the committees required to go outside, so we do engage. It's just that the Grievance and Appeals Committee is is a different type of committee and it's more complicated. And do you know how much lawyers cost? Right? So I want all the other committees to have to go out to other communities. I don't want to give them the option of not doing that.
We have a point of order, I believe, online, so I will come back to the speakers after that. Virginia McKee. Virginia, you can unmute and speak whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Your video appears to be frozen, though.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. I will try not to move fast. Virginia McKee, Chief Steward, Local 47, Area 7. Point of order. And forgive me, while I was out in the breakout room, things might have been happening that I couldn't hear. So it seems to me we were on there was an amendment proposed, and I think we determined it's not a friendly amendment, that it does change the intention. So we would now need to vote on that, whether or not to accept that amendment, whether or not to change this resolution to refer only to the grievance committee, or to leave the resolution written as it is. Am I correct?
So what occurred is we had one proposed amendment, which I incorrectly ruled out of order, which has not come back. We had one amendment that you see on your screen that I also ruled out of order, that we just, at this moment, are working on some formatting issues. We haven't been able to take it off the screen. And we had a third proposed amendment that the mover graciously chose to withdraw. So we are currently on the main original motion once we clarified what the intent was, because you would be correct if we were just to include grievance and appeals, that would completely change the intent of the resolution. So currently we are on the main debate. When they're ruled out of order, we don't vote on them. We just, that they are ruled out of order, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your point, though. Yeah, it has been a bit of a confusing process. Yes, we have a pro online, Andrew Warren. I do recognize that you are there.
Oh, there. It's finally working.
Yeah, we have you now. Yeah.
Clicking buttons like crazy. Andrew Warren, Local 73, Red River College Polytechnic, pronouns he and him. I rise, although I am sitting, in support of this resolution. I think it's good, and let me just say why. I think that the purpose of the original requirement to have meetings outside the city is to increase the opportunity for people outside the city to attend, increase membership engagement. What I would add to this is I think the real way to increase opportunities for people to attend meetings is to make meetings virtual, or at least the option of virtual attendance. That is the one thing I think we've learned during the pandemic, is that it's way easier to get to a meeting. No parking, no travel time, no gas. There's all sorts of things that go away when meetings are virtual. And yes, some things need to be in person. I teach at the college. Classrooms should be in person as much as possible, for certain subjects at least. But for meetings like the kind we often have, I think a better way to increase member participation is to have meetings virtually, and perhaps not all the time. Maybe I'm not proposing an amendment, but maybe a future proposal would be that require that the standing committees have at least one meeting that's virtual per, whatever term we're talking about here. So that's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. We will go to Con Mic 2.
Hello, it's Beverly Gibbs again, Area 4, Local 52 Trades. As I'm understanding, I am much like Sister Shelley. I agree that lawyers are expensive, so maybe the Grievance and Appeals Committee should have an exemption, but it wouldn't kill all the Winnipeg people to drive out of town.
I will recognize the delegate on Pro Mic 4.
Wanda Thompson, Local 303, Family Visions in Brandon. I've had this discussion with the Resource Center and our union rep about people in Winnipeg figure that Manitoba stops at the border at the perimeter of Winnipeg. And I've seen people come into Winnipeg and they get into Winnipeg and their appointment's been canceled. Or I've been called and said, can you be here for an appointment in like 20 minutes? And you say, do you know where Brandon is? No. You know, so like, go outside the perimeter. Show that the union cares that for people outside of the perimeter of Winnipeg. So, yeah, that's my feeling.
Thank you, Delegate. We're going to go to the Con Online. Cheryl Mickey. You're ready to go, Delegate.
Thank you. Cheryl Mickey, she, elle, Local 444, which is the Manitoba Arts Council. In our work, we serve clients across the province, and we routinely go out to our clients' communities to meet with them, to hear their concerns, and to really get to understand their perspective. There is nothing in the world like going to someone's community. You learn all kinds of things that you would not learn through a virtual session. For example, I do strongly oppose this resolution just because I think there is a duty for MGEU to meet its members in their place of being, and I don't want to remove that obligation from the committees. Understanding the very real cost concerns from the about bringing lawyers out. Why can't the lawyers zoom in from Winnipeg for those meetings, but still have the committee members meet with the delegates in their homes, in their communities, to really understand and learn and foster relationship? I think it would make us stronger, each of us, through that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. I will go to the Delegate on Pro Mic 1.
Bob Wells, Area 4, Corrections, and also the Chair of the Grievance Appeals Committee. I listened to a lot of valid points here, but the point is, what it should be is, this is strictly for the Grievance Appeals Committee. Should amend the MGEU policy and procedures by adding exemption from the Grievance Appeals Committee to hold at least one meeting per term outside the city of Winnipeg. We don't, every time we have a meeting, it's purpose to listen to an appellant. If we don't have an appellant, we can't schedule a meeting. We sometimes come in the meeting in Winnipeg and we have 3 appellants scheduled. We may get there that day and find out there's neither one. And be physically responsible, that's another reason why we're not doing that. The lawyers must attend that meeting as well. So if we have a meeting in Brandon tomorrow and we get out there and bring the lawyers from Winnipeg out there and the appellant cancels, then we're hooped. And not being physically responsible. So we don't know when the appellants are going to show up. So therefore, it's strictly about the Grievance Appeals Committee that our business is in Winnipeg and needs to stay in Winnipeg. That's it.
Thank you, Delegate. All right. You didn't propose an amendment. Are you? Oh, you guys just told me that wasn't the intent, though. Okay. Delegate, you can use the remainder of your time.
So the amendment will be to amend the MGEU policy and procedures by adding exemption from Grievance Appeals Committee to hold at least one meeting per term outside the city of Winnipeg. That is what that was the intent.
I understand what you're saying, Delegate. I'm just going to confer for a moment.
This is tricky for us.
I have spoken with our parliamentarian, and I'm again going to have to rule that out of order. It is again. I understand that is what you state your intent when you put the original resolution in was, but that was not the clarification given by the committee. And I just ruled somebody else out of order for doing the same thing. And I understand that this is becoming a bit of a process, and I accept that. But that is my ruling. I will go to the delegate on Con 3.
Me?
Yeah.
Paulette from Local 409, Tech Prof, Prairie Mountain Health. I just want to say that the...
Yep.
Yes.
You are correct, brother, on Con 2. I forgot you were there. So we will come back to you.
Okay.
Delegate on Con 2.
Whiskey Area 1 Director, I would like to move this to the board for a decision.
Refer?
Refer it to the board, please.
Okay, we have a motion to refer on the floor. Is there a seconder? Shelley? Shelley Wiggins seconds. That is non-debatable unless there is a debate on where it is being referred to.
Which committee?
You can come to the mic and debate on where it is being referred to. That is acceptable. So I will recognize the delegate on Con 3.
I'd like to refer it back to the Grievance and Appeals Committee, the one that put the resolution forward, rather than to the board.
Okay. Thank you for making that point. I again will talk to our parliamentarian about that procedure. Yeah. Are you debating where it's being referred to? Okay. So this is a bit of a dicey procedure, and so what technically happens when you propose or debate that, it is the same as an amendment. So I will listen to the brother on Con 2, and then we will decide on what we will vote on. Con 2?
James Alexander, Local 14 Corrections. I think the way the resolution is currently, it has implications for the MGU at large, for all the standing committees and not just grievance and appeals. Because of that, I think the board is the best place for it to be. So I'd like to keep the referral to the board, please.
Okay. So the procedure for this will be this. There has been a proposed amendment to the motion to refer. So the first vote that we will do is on the proposed amendment. So the motion to refer. Sorry, brother on Con Mike, are you speaking to the referral? Yes. Okay. So I'll go through the process. And sister on Con 3.
Order. There was not a seconder for that amendment to the referral.
Oh, that is correct. Thank you for that. Is there a seconder for referring it to the committee?
For the change to
for the proposed amendment to the grievance committee. Okay. Brother, say your name. Okay. Thank you. All right. So this is a proposed amendment to the motion to refer. Prior to going through that, are you debating the where to refer to?
I have an opinion on it, yes.
Well, we will hear that before we go further.
Hank Warner Brown, Local 70, Vice President, Thompson, Manitoba. As a northerner, I am very reticent that we would refer this to the board because it is a regional issue. I'm getting that. The board itself, one could interpret as a Winnipeg-centric institution. I think that I would want to see something this important from a regional perspective resolved in convention and not delegated to the board. Thank you.
Yeah, I know he's out of order. Brother, technically, Brother, technically you were out of order because you were debating the motion to refer, not where, but that's okay because you got it out anyway, so. Yeah, I hear you. I guess I see what you're saying. Anyways, so we have a motion on the floor to refer, or to amend the motion to refer. It has been moved and seconded, so the ballot that will go up, and I apologize to the poor people at the back of DOTS who are trying to come up with these ballots, is to amend the motion to refer from the Board of Directors to the Grievance and Appeals Committee. So as soon as they are ready to put that ballot up, and probably go for a few drinks at lunch, please do so. That ballot is open on the proposed amendment to the motion to refer. I do not disagree with you, but I have to do what I have to do. It's a referral. It's whether or not we're referring it to the Grievance and Appeals Committee as an amendment. You're voting on the amendment to the referral. There, that's the vote. 15 seconds. Yeah, that's okay. So people would like a clarification as to what we're voting on? Okay, so we had a motion to refer to the Board of Directors. When we were debating the motion of where it should be deferred to, there was an amendment proposed to that motion to refer to send it to the Grievance and Appeals Committee, which was moved and seconded. So the very first vote we are doing is to whether or not we are accepting the amendment proposed that this should be referred to the Grievance and Appeals Committee. That's the first vote. Depending on whether or not that passes, we will vote on the motion to refer in general, whether we want to refer it. And then if that does not pass, we will go back to debating the motion as it is. Is there any further clarification? Dots, I would ask you to reopen that poll again, and we will vote on that again. Okay, the poll is open. It's not letting you vote. Okay, Dots, I'm going to ask you to close that poll. Let that go and open up a brand new one so that everybody can vote again, so that we make sure everybody gets their vote in. Okay, they're working on it. I appreciate everyone's patience during this process. The ballot is now open. Fifteen seconds. The ballot is closed. It is, that is carried. It has been amended 91 to 80 to send it to the Grievance and Appeals Committee. We will now vote on the motion to refer itself, which now is a motion to refer back to the Grievance and Appeals Committee. So once Dots is ready, they can open that poll. Is that poll open? Guys at the ballot is now open. Fifteen seconds. The ballot is now closed. That is carried. It has been referred back to the Grievance and Appeals Committee, 102 to 68. I want to thank everybody for their patience as we work through this process. I believe we're probably way late going for lunch, right? Yeah. Time for lunch. Yeah. So everybody, it is now lunchtime, and what time do we want them back at? 10 after 1. 10 after 1. Thank you for your patience, everybody.
Good job, Scott. That was a rough job.